talk, real tools, wisdom on the fly. Tune in, geek out, reach for the sky. FPK, future-proof knowledge podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Future-Proof Knowledge podcast. We have a fantastic array of wonderful guests today joining us. As always, my name is Alan O'Donoghue, and I'll be trying to steer this ship as best as I can. But thankfully, I've got Tana and Jason hiding in the background there who can really look after the steering of the ship. But we are delighted this week to be joined by Angela Curran and Niall Boyle from mycareerverse.ie, who are going to talk to us a bit about virtual reality and augmented artificial intelligence in the classroom. And I'm really excited to get into this conversation because it's something that's very topical at the moment. There's a lot of fear, a lot of conversation among teachers and parents and students around what's okay, what's not okay. But Angela, before we really take a deep dive in, talk to us a little bit about your background and how mycareerverse.ie came about.
Okay, well, my background is in tech. So I originally did business and a master's in computer science when I left school originally. And I spent 15 years in Dell Computers, where I started off in the tech part and then I went into become sales director. So I kind of saw two parts of the actual business in that space. So I went from like building systems and seeing how rapidly like technology was evolving to moving into the sales part and actually selling the stuff. So dealing with customers and finding what they actually needed. And then from that, I took a career break and then changed my mind and my direction in my career and moved into guidance counselling. So I did that about 10 years ago. I shifted into it, and the part that I really got involved in was the educational part of guidance. So you've got career guidance and you've got education and you've got personal social. But the one that stood out to me was all around the learning part. And then also on top of that was the career guidance part. And also because when I was in school, my career guidance wasn't that effective. Like it kind of steered me in the wrong direction initially. So I'd always said that when I get a chance, I'm going to go back and try and do this right for students. So when I began to move into this area, I realized that the system for guidance students was like completely disconnected from the real world, because I've been in the real world working there. And also equally where they were about to enter, like even the skills that they had. And the original thing that I did as part of my thesis when I left was I did a whole transitioning into school using the top 10 skills. So those top 10 skills are the skills that you need in all industries. So what I did is I introduced a whole program into the school, because I realized even from just talking to students initially that they hadn't a clue what even skills they needed for actual work after they left school. So that began my transition into this space, as in seeing, okay, there's a real disconnect between education and actually work. So then I began to look into this a bit further. And also there was a real, I suppose, disconnection between education and technology. So my technology background, I had the confidence to begin to look at stuff that I thought might be really helpful. So that brought me into looking at virtual reality. So I has always had an interest in that space, but I didn't have the chance to actually research it and have a look at the potential of that technology in a classroom situation. And equally the learning that students get when they're immersed in a VR immersive experience, how that amplifies what actually the students' learning is. So I've had the chance to test that in class and really watch students being captivated. But also the reality of it is that they actually retain the information even more effectively than the textbooks. So it's absolutely a way forward for actual learning, albeit it's an expensive technology. So it's not one that will be accessible by everybody just yet, but it is getting cheaper all the time. They're bringing down the price of the headsets. So then I began to move into the headset world, and I started to do some research initially around career guidance, because I felt that we were really doing our students a disjustice when we asked them to choose what careers or courses that they're going to do after school when they can't even taste them. So they're expected to pick these careers and these actual courses and pathways from text on an actual website, which wasn't even good enough either, because it was all written in academic language. So I found over time, as I was going through talking to students and speaking to them around like modules that they liked on courses, they didn't even understand what they're actually even choosing. But this whole process has been going on for years, where students have had to choose courses based on academic language where they didn't even know what they're actually doing. So what happened was I realized that, there must be a better way to show these students what they're actually going to study. So I went and I started looking, as I said, at the virtual reality. And then in addition to that, I started looking for an app. What app would actually work? Where could I get an app that they could show that their career? Sorry, can I just shut this door?
You can.
It's got very noisy. So I started looking for this app and I researched everywhere, UK, America, and everything. And I finally came across an app in Australia, of all places, which I find are extremely ahead when it comes to education. So in that space, I got in touch with a company called WorkWindow. WorkWindow have an app that you can actually see a career and immerse yourself in an actual career by using a headset. So you download the app onto your headset, you bring it into a classroom situation, and you let the student put the headset on them. And when they put the headset on them, they're allowed to move around a whole day in the life of that particular person. And that could be something like a biomedical scientist to a carpenter. So all different types of actual careers. So when I brought that into the classroom, students began to really like wake up and start thinking, okay, look, this is what a career is about. And also what it did is help them with their decision making. So instead of actually just choosing courses, now they were choosing careers. So I kind of flipped it, that they moved into the career piece rather than just their courses, which meant that they were beginning to get a sense of, if I do this particular pathway, what am I end up doing on a daily basis? So it was a real enlightenment for a lot of them. You know, I did lots of preparation before we put the VR headsets on them, and equally afterwards to find out what was the impact of that? What did you learn? So that brought me around to thinking, okay, well, actually, you know what? We need to change guidance altogether, because if we can make an impact with just 30 VR headsets and an app that costs whatever, 2.5K, we need to change this up. It wasn't scalable to do that, obviously, because like at the time we started to think about developing an actual platform around this, which is where myself and I began thinking about mycareerverse.ie, which is our platform, which is a brand new guidance platform, which is a much faster platform. It also has much easier access to this information. In a sense, it's in student language, so they can understand it quicker. But also, the whole idea about the platform is that it has a 360 experience for a student to actually find out what it's actually like to actually immerse themselves in that particular career. And now with the advent of all this new technology, like the likes of VO3, we're now able to actually develop this particular part of our website where the student can actually immerse themselves. Now we're working towards in courses, and we're also working towards careers. Whereas previously, even a couple of years ago, it would have taken us €1,000 per minute to make a VR. So it's getting cheaper all the time, and it's getting more accessible, which means also that it'll be able to be used across the board. It's not just going to be for potentially my school or such. All schools will get access to this, but it's going to be much cheaper because the cost of it is coming down all the time. So yes, it's expensive now, but it's coming down all the time. So through that was the discovery of like the birth of our guidance tool, My Careerverse, and that's where we began to have a look at it. And the whole process of actually being able to guide the student correctly at the start versus the whole expression, they'll find their way. So what we have now developed is an actual platform that allows us to actually do a proper skills assessment with an actual conversationist, as in a career guidance conversation around getting more information out of the student, which then selects out of that and brings them a list of different skills, which then selects out of that and gives them courses and pathways based on where they're actually at, and actually gives them a much clearer path because they get to test these things out. Like I always use the example, if you're going to buy a car, you get to test drive a car. Whereas we're expecting students to choose courses and career paths based on no testing. So that's what led me into the whole My Careerverse journey and how it began, because we realized the system that they're using is archaic. And equally, I work with students who come to me who have dropped out of college. And that was another big, I suppose, trigger for me to say, look, we need to do something about this. This isn't right. The amount of students that are dropping out of college based on the fact that they've chosen the wrong course because they didn't have enough research done or they couldn't access proper research. So that's where this all started to come about. So that was the VR piece.
Yeah. That's fascinating, and it aligns very clearly with certainly probably our experience, well, mine here in Ireland, and probably the same for Tana and Jayshawn in the US. Like that system, and the amount of young people I will get come to me for coaching because they're struggling with their mental health because they have no idea what their passion is, and everyone tells them, oh, go do your passion and then you'll be fine, and then you'll never have to work a day in your life. And they're like, well, my passion is sitting in my bedroom playing my PlayStation.
Mm.
But the challenge is that the educational structures that we have, what we teach young people, what we teach students, does not align with the array of different potential career paths that are available to them. So the amount of them who come in probably to you and going, well, I think I'd like to do physio because I like sport. But there's so many, an array of different opportunities within a sporting context that they don't just have to go and try and get 600 points to do physio. There are so many other options, and getting to experience it, I couldn't imagine how amazing that is to actually experience it and see how it works out. And I know, like, we've met through the immersive group here in Ireland, and one of the members, Mary Walsh O'Shea, works for WWETB, and she, for their nursing students, they've built out a VR process, and they found that the level of attainment for those students coming out was so much better. But what you're essentially doing is giving autonomy to the young person, to the student. A level of autonomy that they wouldn't have had before, which is amazing. And I'll come back to that. But Niall, I want to bring you in just to talk about the kind of, I suppose, a little bit about your background and where you see the educational side of things moving as we build out these opportunities for students. We can't hear you now.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, yeah.
You can, but you can't. I can't hear you. I'm sorry, Alan. I'm going to have to go in beside Angela and work with her because my laptop is not working. Okay, I can hear you. I can plug in, but yeah, I'm a tech guy as well, so I need to go into Angela. Okay,
that's okay. Yeah. So, Angela, I suppose Niall's going to come in and join you. But
sorry,
like,
It's okay.
can I take the headphones?
Yeah. Of course, here you go.
Let's go back to the video there, please.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, sorry, Alan.
You're all right. So I suppose I was just curious about a bit about your background and also where you see kind of education moving and the opportunities that are available to students as well. So what is your background? Where did you come from, and what was it about the light bulb that went off?
Yeah, so my original degree was in computer engineering, and I did that 20 years ago. I feel that was not the correct choice for me. I was good at mathematics, and I was into playing computer games, and therefore I was recommended to study computer engineering. And I think nowadays we guidance counselors, that's to discover what a student actually wants to do in college, as opposed to what their parents think they should do. I think we have a lot better psychometric testing available. So myself and Angela worked together on a virtual college evening a few years ago, and that's where American universities were advertising their universities to students here in Belvedere College. And we went from that idea to actually talking about my career verse and try and develop a set of tools that would kind of not replace the guidance counselor, but kind of augment the guidance counselor's role. Give the students lots of tests, lots of personality tests, and lots of information around the different colleges, and turning the language that's on college websites, turning that into student friendly language, all through using AI. And then, like, we're also, like, we're not replacing the guidance counselor. We are doing the kind of grunt work that students would do with a guidance counselor, where they're actually doing an assessment, and we're kind of removing that step, and then they can have a shorter chat with a guidance counselor, if that kind of makes sense. So I've been working as a teacher. I've been I teach maths and computer science, and also I did my master's in educational technology a few years ago in Estonia, and the like Estonia was a very interesting place to do this masters, because Estonia is a very small country. It's a very sparsely populated country, and so they are very tech friendly. They during the winter time, a lot of schools would be closed for a couple of weeks, and so they have to deliver a proper online school experience. And I don't know if you know, it was recently, last 6 months ago or so, ChatGPT made an agreement with the Estonian government to actually offer their student version to all students in Estonia. So they're always at the forefront of technology in the classroom. And yeah, I'm kind of taking my experience from that course and from other schools that where I was like the lead educational technologist, and I'm kind of working with Angela to develop a website together, if that all makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I love the idea of the Estonians kind of just being this little pocket of future proofing of education and stuff like that. Like that's absolutely phenomenal. How did you end up in Estonia? Like how did that come about? Was it just the option that was there? Oh, you're gone. Hold on.
Do it in Estonia.
Sorry, say that again there.
I said there was a scholarship available to do a master's in
Okay.
educational technology, and it was a 1-year course. It was a hybrid course, and so I spent the summer there, and then was working in my school, and then after that, the second summer we finished off the course. So it was a really I learned a lot from that course, and my professors there were very forward thinking. They were not talking about specific tools that would be used in the classroom environment. They were more about the pedagogical effects of having technology in the classroom. What is the best use of technology, as opposed to what is the best technology? So those kind of questions are more important to me than saying that ChatGPT is better than Gemini versus whatever, versus Claude. Like it's the question about technology in the classroom should always be answer the question is what is best for teaching and learning, as opposed to what is available. Like are we, like, I don't like the ideas of having a Microsoft school or a Google school. I think we should be using the best technology that's available to enhance student learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, I'm going to bring you in. Like for you, you've been immersing yourself in AI and technology for the last number of years, and like we've previously spoken on this podcast about how your time in school was, it wasn't what you would hope an education would be, in terms of you weren't coming out of it going, I love everything to do with education and I love learning and this is fantastic. It was quite different to that. But yet your own self-directed learning over the last number of years has brought your skill levels from, say, here to up here, and it seems to be increasing day on day on day. Like you have autonomy over that, right? Because you're a grown adult and you can make those decisions. But when you think about students in a classroom, like, do you have concerns about how they might use AI? And do you think that we who are leading out, I suppose, the use of AI in classrooms have a responsibility to put some guardrails in place to help them maximize the opportunities that are available to them utilizing AI within the classroom?
All right, I'll hit that with a couple prongs. So for me personally,
I said prompts there for a second.
yeah, let me hit you with a couple prompts real quick. Let's see. For me in school, you're absolutely right. So it wasn't that I was a dumb kid. I was a smart kid, but I thought differently and my brain worked differently. So I would finish things fast in class. I wasn't good at like doing writing assignments, but I can listen and I can retain the information. So why everybody's would write, because I picked it up in the speaking portion of the course. That'd give me time to goof off, and I was a class clown. I'd fall out of my chair, throw pencils, do all this stuff that little boys do in school. And it wasn't because I was a bad kid. It was just because I had the free time because I was smart, but it wasn't designed for me. I think about myself today, if I was that same student in class, how excited I would be to have AI. One of the reasons why I struggled in class, in some of the classes where I wasn't as smart as I could have been, was embarrassment. Lots of students like myself, I didn't want to raise my hand, and this was for several reasons. And we're going to talk about high schoolers, junior high schoolers. One of the major things for me was there's a lot of cute girls in my class. I didn't want to be the guy who's embarrassed, like, oh, I don't know this answer, teacher, I need help, and raising my hand every 5 minutes. That's embarrassing. So kids think that way, and it's very small and it's very minute, and we don't consider it when we're in the situation. But as an adult looking back, you can see that type of stuff. So had I had an AI study coach or AI application that I can ask questions to without having to expose my lack of knowledge to the whole classroom, and I can get that feedback and proceed, I would have been a lot more comfortable and I would have taken those classes more seriously. But when I didn't want to embarrass myself, I did stuff to get kicked out of class so I wouldn't have to deal with it. Now we bring me into today and looking at AI. I personally feel if you give a student access to technology, don't limit what they can do with it. Well, let me take that back. There should be some limitations. You know, you don't want them looking up unhealthy things online. You don't want them trying to build manifestos and things like that for obscene type things. But other than that, who cares what they do with it? If they're engaged, they're learning. And as long as they're playing with the technology, they're figuring the technology out. Once they feel comfortable with it on their own by just playing with it, then that's a great opportunity and our entry point to say, now that you figured that out and you're enjoying that, let's see how far you can take it. And as instructors or educators, that's where we prompt and push them to use the technology in ways that we want them to, so they can learn different behaviors and different ways the technologies can assist them. So I don't think there should be a lot of limitations on the technology when it's first introduced to a student or a user, just so that they can have the freedom to fully enjoy it with no restrictions. Once they enjoy it, then that's where we step in and we give them some guardrails and we point them in a direction of how to use the tool. So yeah, I think that answers the question for the most part.
It does, and it kind of, I suppose, it mirrors very much my experience working in youth work. So one of the most important, and it's probably the same for you guys as teachers, one of the most, or if not the most important and first thing to go to is relationship building. And again, I've probably discussed this in the past. So we have to build that relationship with the student or the individual in order for them to build that trust, in order for them to feel comfortable, in order for them to learn. So, you know, when I was working with kids who were involved with drugs and stuff like that, I would not come in day one and go, right, you don't need to stop taking drugs. There you go. Class dismissed. Thanks very much. because they just go, yeah, grand, you're just another adult who's just telling me what to do, same as all the others, and I'm not going to pay any attention to you. Whereas if you come in, build that relationship, what are you interested in? What, oh, you're interested in calligraphy? Jesus, I've always wanted to learn about calligraphy. No, I haven't, but I'd make the effort to try and learn it with them. So I was showing them that they had worth and value as a human being, first and foremost. And then once you build up that relationship, you could move into let's explore what's the reasons that behind you wanting to take drugs. And they might go, because it's just great. I love it. All my friends do it. Okay, that's fine. And then you could go in lots of different directions, or they kind of go, to be honest, I just love not being able to think. And the amount of times I heard that, I just love not being able to have to think. Okay, well, let's explore what's lying underneath that. And then you could start to do more supportive, therapeutic work, whatever it might be, to help them to start to put the guardrails in place for themselves. So it sounds very similar to what you've just described there, Jay Sean. And Tana, I want to come to you, kind of so I suppose you've experienced having children going through that education system in the United States and probably having different experiences. And like, because I want to pull Angela back in terms of the guidance counselling side of things in a minute, but like, what is the guidance counselling support like in the system that your children grew up in? Was it supportive? Did it help them? Did they find it useful? Or was it just non-existent? And I can see Jay Sean laughing there, so it'll be interesting to get his take too. What was your experience, Tana?
For I think within the athletics, it's very supportive. If you're not, it's pretty non-existent. And I think we've talked about this before. You have to advocate for your child in that fact. One thing I like Angela saying, the virtual reality, I think that would help a lot of children, and it would help parents not having to waste a lot of time, and it would give children a lot of options, and it would help parents. I thought that was a really cool, just listening to her talk about options and alternatives where you could simulate, how would you like this option? How would you like that option? And actually give them, especially in trade schools, let them have the opportunity to, instead of wasting money and time, putting in all that effort for a child. But yeah, guidance counselors, unless they see, I think, a child that's on a path, it's kind of thrown away, unfortunately. And so unless a parent is over there busting down that door, they're not gonna, it's gone. And just the funding is not there. Our education system over here is crumbling at a very sad rate. It's, so I think unless the child and the parent is over there with a plan, it's almost non-existent. Would you not agree, Jay Sean?
100%. With my situation, schools are overcrowded. You got a guidance counselor who has 100+ students that they have to be a guidance counselor for. The personalization, the one-on-one connection is hard to get. But when you're in sports, you got alumni. Even when you're in high school, you got alumni that want to see the sports good because those kids might make it to college on that. So you get a lot of support when it comes to sports and athletics. They really want to see you succeed because that's a big ticket item to get a student into college and beyond. And then you have your handful of valedictorians that guidance counselors absolutely love. If you show that extra spark of, yeah, you've got something, guidance counselors will jump on those. All else that fall between sports and valedictorians,
Yeah.
they've got 200 of you. They ain't got time to get deep into your personal concerns and deep into what your struggles are, or what your likes and dislikes are. But that's the wonderful thing about AI, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we introduce AI into the same scope and not give it to replace the guidance counselor, give it as a tool for the guidance counselor. Now it can monitor multiple students, and it's not such a task for a guidance counselor to understand what 100 different students are doing if they're being monitored and their data is being collected by AI.
That's
My
why I was
personal opinion.
saying when Angela was talking about, I thought that that was amazing when she was saying you could do a virtual reality actual simulation and have a child, or even when, a young adult that's out of high school, that's in college, that still doesn't know what they want or anything, and they're still, bopping around because people don't know. And they can have, still go and try out different careers and different paths. Um, I don't think I've ever told you this, Alan or Jay Sean. I went and I did a course for a dental assistant, and I went and took a whole 2 years of dental assistant, and I went and worked for dentists for a whole year, and that was like $3,000 wasted. And after a year of working as a dental assistant, I was like, I don't think I like this. I don't want to do this. And my husband was so bad. He was like, you wasted all that money. You wasted all that time. And I was like, yeah, I really don't like it. But, what if I would have had that program? What if I would have done that? And what did I go do? I went and became a cosmetologist. And so, but there you go. What if I would have had a program like that?
Yeah,
I could have,
it would be massive. Absolutely. So Angela, like, talk to us a bit about that side
AI.
of things.
Yeah.
Like,
So if we start off with the AI and guidance, okay? So AI
Mhm.
and guidance has completely transformed the guidance role. Like you're saying, in around like being able to track students, being able to see a lot more students. It's reducing all the admin work that we do on a daily basis. So it's given us a lot more time to actually meet students. And similar to the US, believe it or not, the guidance counselors in Ireland are equally under-resourced. Like you could have 2 guidance counselors to a school of over 1,000 students. So it's always been like, I suppose, a sore point. They're always going to the government, try and get extra resource in this space because it's so important, because a lot of the time as well, some schools don't even get around to the education piece or the career guidance part because they're dealing with personal social issues. So there's definitely needs to be some changes in this space. But AI has come in at a brilliant time to help us actually get some time back and to help us to, open up those other areas like the education part, like help them even say, for example, even a weekly planner. Like that would have taken me an hour's class to do before. Now they can do them in 30 seconds. Like, it's a game changer in those kind of small pace. So organization, time management, all those typical things that students need skills wise that now they can do like that. So I would use that in the classroom to do that. But the other really cool thing around AI as well is that you're able to ask it questions around like age. So, for example, if I'm working with a first year class, which probably being around 12 or 13, I ask them to put the actual guide or the modules from a course into their language. So now they see exactly what exactly is on that course in their own language. Like, it's just enlightening when you see their little faces like lightening up. It's like, wow, this is what actually I might be studying. So it explains exactly what their next stage is. And equally with the VR, they can also try other careers that they didn't actually even think about. So I get them to move around the class and try different careers as well. So it's never just, I want to do biomedical science because my parent did it or my brother did it or somebody I know did it or I did a bit of work experience in it. Because what's happened is they're very influenced by their environment, as we know, when they're choosing what they're going to do next. So it's trying to remove all that bias that's already there and allow them to be themselves and actually explore it themselves. And it's so refreshing to watch it when a student comes off one of those VR headsets and is talking about, wow, that's what whatever a carpenter does. That's what. And I know like we think that they know these things, but they haven't a clue because they don't get exposure. We have got exposure over the years. We know what happens in carpenter and stuff like that. We might have had someone in our house, but they've never had this access. So all of a sudden this world is opening up for them. It's like you're pulling back a big curtain. So it's like everything is now becoming much more transparent. So they can actually see, wow, that pathway leads to this. you know, but equally they have the language now, whereas they didn't have the language
Yeah.
before. That academic language on websites for students to choose courses, and it's in the US as well, because I did a lot with students going to the US as well, and it's in Europe as well. It's all written by professors of these courses. They're not in the language that students actually understand. Sure, I am trying to understand it myself, do you know? And like I'm trying to show, and then I go along to all these open days to try and pick up this language and to relate it back to the students and make sure that I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about courses. So AI has really helped in that end of things, but equally in study and learning, like Niall was talking about earlier on. And I'll bring not you can bring Niall back in a second, but regarding learning and AI, like I have experience because I'm myself and I are right now teaching in schools how to use AI responsibly, how to use it ethically, how to use it. You're not putting your personal details in, just even minor guardrails. Because as you say, Jason, they're out using it, and it's brilliant that they are. I encourage it, whereas some teachers might be a little bit reluctant because they're a bit fearful of it. So, like, there's a few things that we need to do. We need to give the students even minor kind of guardrails, and then we need to teach the teachers how to actually use it. How does it work? You know what I mean? And not even just to like to write assessments around like that, or to just to get a handle on it. Like the Irish government are potentially meant to be rolling out all this kind of training and such like that, but it's a little bit too late. Like the horse is bolted. Do you know what I mean? We need to be out there now, you know, having these webinars, and equally as well, a lot of the webinars are delivered by third level education teachers. They're not delivered by second level, who are the people who are actually using it on a day-to-day basis, you know, which is great because it's theory backed, but actually practical on the ground is what we actually need, you know. And like Niall might will be able to talk a little bit more extensively about that. No pressure, but it's like it's just been a game changer for me as a teacher and a game changer as a guidance counsellor, to the extent that I am now going around the country. Myself and I are going to guidance counselling hubs, and we're teaching guidance counsellors how to use it. And like when they see what they get out of it, between presentation apps that change your life, like, you know, that usually would have took me an hour to do, now it's taken me 2 minutes to do, with excellent content. Obviously, we know that ChatGPT and all those other things hallucinate. Of course we do. And we tell that to the students all the time, that it's not always the right answer. But then we give them tools that has a little bit more grounded resources, so that they can actually use some of these as their study things, which Niall might talk about, Notebook LM and stuff like that. But like, there's loads of stuff. It's just to kind of build their confidence in it. They're using it. Like every single student I know is using it. So like when I go into class and I ask them who's using it, they're nearly afraid to put their hands up. Like it's like, oh my God, I shouldn't be using it. But like we need to stop that and let them use it and just show them how to use it. Anyway, I'll hand over to Niall, because I think he's got a really cool things around what I was talking about. He's coming back into
Great.
me.
He's coming back in. He's doing
decided-
his dash.
He's doing his dash. Here he comes.
I'm going to throw out a question there
on.
that maybe
Hold on.
anybody could answer when it comes up. So you're in the school system,
Yeah.
and with the advancements in VR and being able to learn
Yeah.
different vocations through VR, that's great for the student. But can you touch on a little bit, and I don't know if you've seen this, where the actual institution, you know, having a mechanics class, you got to purchase engines and parts. Having a carpenter class, you got to purchase wood. If you want to teach medical science, you got to purchase the medical equipment. Are schools finding that they can save money, or is there a savings there moving to VR and allowing students to use all these different things without having to be in the physical world buying all these things that kids will use and they have to be replaced over and over, where VR, you just reset and go back to the beginning and replay it?
So you're asking me, is it working out better for the school to actually invest in this technology in order to improve the students' learning and stuff like that? Absolutely.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I was saying to Alan before this conversation, that like we have rolled VR into beyond the guidance classes. We're using it in the actual geography classes to show them about a field study. So that before they even get out to do a field study, they're getting an experience of that, what to look for. When our students are going away on retreats, or they're going away to different countries for different education, like they go away for places, like they might go to to France to learn French, they might go to Germany. We're using these VR headsets to put them on their heads and show them around the place before they even get there, which is reducing time, which is improving the actual experience when they get over there. We're using VR now for we're moving it into sport, like you're talking about in the US with the athletes. We're using that now in sport as well. So in the rugby, because if the students have an injury, they can now put the VR headset on them and practice away through visual and been immersed in the space. So yes, it's making a huge impact, because usually with a student who might have an injury, they might take time to recover, whereas they're keeping it going mentally in their head, even though they're actually physically recovering in the background. From an AI perspective, absolutely, because that is definitely increasing my productivity as a guidance counselor. I'm able to open up more programs for the students and to get much more in depth with them. So it's making it better guidance. So it's absolutely improving overall from these tools. Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. So, right, give Niall the headset there so we
Niall, you're on.
can get his take.
Hello, Alan.
Niall,
Hi.
you did your dash in. So
Yeah.
talk to us then about your experience with what Angela was talking about, that in bringing those that content into the classroom, and is it difficult to create? Is it difficult to get buy-in from other teachers? Is it something that you're having to push? Are the school resistant to it? Like all that kind of stuff. Talk to us a little bit about that and your experience of it.
Yeah. My experience, like working with AI as an educator, is that it's it you get in what you get out. Sorry, or you get out what you put in. It's very easy to type into ChatGPT or to Microsoft Gemini and just ask for a worksheet on quadratic equations. But if you actually figure out what the students are interested, you can take a prompt like that and take it to the next level. Let's say they're into basketball, so you could ask for a worksheet on quadratic equations that involve basketball, like involve shooting the ball into a hoop. And then you can even take it a little further. You can say you want to differentiate a lesson on quadratic equations related to basketball. So there, then you get you get differentiated resources. You get easy questions for the weaker students, and more difficult questions for the harder ones. You get it aligned to their interests, and then it's really it's a conversation that you have with a chatbot, and the more you talk to it, the more it kind of gets what you want. And also, like, if you set up the system instructions, and be one thing I find with ChatGPT is that it's a very sycophantic, and that it always tells you that your answer that your ideas are brilliant, and that your question is a great question, and so on. And I kind of wanted to remove all of that, and so I set up the instructions, and I asked everything to be concise, direct, in student-friendly language, and I wanted it to be more critical of my input, as opposed to just telling me that I'm brilliant all the time, because that's not what I want to hear. So like ChatGPT, it definitely augments the teacher, as opposed to replaces the teacher. I see a lot of stuff in the media or on LinkedIn that says that AI will replace teachers. And for me, I think teachers are probably one of the most safe professions from AI replacement. I think a teacher's role is only going to become more and more important, because they are going to be leading classroom discussions. They are going to be deciding on groups, and how to actually manage having access to an AI in the classroom. Um, but that all takes training, and like I think Angela referred to earlier on, that there is a requirement in all the schools in Ireland, I mean in the EU actually, that all staff get some training around AI in education. And I I know the Department of Education have ideas around deliver it, but I don't see how they actually are going to make that requirement. I don't like it's just not going to happen. And I think we've already made mistakes around social media and mobile phones, and just giving it to young people and allowing them to do whatever they want on the social on a mobile phone, which is quite an advanced piece of technology, really, when you consider where computers were 20-25 years ago. And now we're seeing major negative effects of too much social media, too much time spent on phones, and we really dropped the ball I think as an education in the education department, in just letting young people have access to mobile phones without any proper guidance. And so now with AI, I think that we are, well, I don't want to say governments, but I think we are slow to actually recognize the effects that AI will have on students. And at the end of the day, AI stands for artificial intelligence, and it is an artificial intelligence, and in that it really is just the next level up in computer programming, where um it acts like it's basically it's stored, it's accessing a ton of information that is on the server base somewhere. And if you learn how to kind of prompt it correctly, then you have the access to all the information in the world. But if you just put in generic prompts all the time, then you're just going to have generic responses, and all the students' answers will be the same, and teachers will see that this work is AI generated, and it's you will have a situation where we have AI generated homework, and a teacher will have to mark it, and then they will be saying that this is all just AI generated content, and we will have situations where teachers will be getting into not arguments but accusations of students of plagiarism and so on. And rather than playing this cat and mouse game, I think that we need to be more open about the use of AI in education, both from educators and as students. If they're using it, they need to learn how to reference it correctly. They need to be able to talk about their chat history. They need to discuss this, like what did they actually learn from this output. They need to be able to stand by everything that came from this output, and they need to be able to talk around it, and be able to say that this is my work, as opposed to the work that is coming from a computer. So there is lots and lots of training, I think, that needs to happen for educators. And like the time is now, in my opinion, not in a year, because ChatGPT's already been around for like 2 years at the moment, and there are students who are in university who are using it all the time, and they are not learning much, to be fair.
Yeah, I think you bring up a number of really important points, and probably pulling up a lot of the criticisms that there are of AI. And I can't remember what I listened to recently, but someone just described AI as just it just knows the past.
Yeah.
Right. It knows everything in the past, and it's able to formulate that in a way that we can access it very, very quickly. It's not creating anything new. So humans still have to bring that creativity element. But if sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, like I've heard that argument before, and you're right that it doesn't create something new, but I think where it does add value, it's able to link two things together that were not related before, like like for example, you like in maths, you can whatever the student interest is, you can design a worksheet that will actually map that interest onto whatever the topic is at the point at that certain point. So it does generate information that has been generated before, but if the user is experienced and knows the right prompts to ask, they can create new information, if that makes sense.
Well, I think what they create is a mechanism that is new for them, that works with how they learn best and how they understand best.
Yeah.
So like on a previous podcast, I said my knowledge of English geography as a kid was phenomenal because I loved soccer.
Okay.
And I knew where every club was on the map. So I knew where Manchester was, I knew where Liverpool was, Newcastle, Grimsby, Hull. I knew where they all were, because I loved football. And absolutely, for me, the big thing is, I've always said, if I could have learned maths, history, anything through football, I'd have been so engaged all the time, right? Absolutely. I suppose it creates new avenues for us to be able to access previous information, but it's not the disruptor yet.
Yeah.
Right. But I think we have so many digital literacy programs in schools now, but they totally ignore AI because there is that fear. And I suppose there's fear and there's just a lack of knowledge and understanding from educators as well, which is completely understandable, because all they're seeing is in the media is this is going to get rid of your job, you're no longer going to be used, and all it does is cause children and students to plagiarize. But essentially, before AI came along, if I was in school and I went onto Google and said, tell me where, the top 10 football clubs in England and where they are. And then I could go back to my class and say, this is where all these 10 places are in England. But everyone else in the class could do and type in the exact same thing and get the exact same answer. And before the internet, we'd have gone to the same books. So I suppose for me, plagiarism and those types of accusations are pointless, because there are very few new ideas. Do you know what I mean? And brand new takes. There can be, if we can teach these young people to critically analyze what's being created, then we're getting into the critical thinking, and that can then spark the creativity that humans have that's created everything, right? And all of a sudden then people might find that, okay, I might be a neurodiverse student who was on a path to drop out of school early, but now that I'm accessing information in a way that I'm actually interested in, I can understand, okay, I can learn right now. Well, the neurodiverse people are the most creative people on the planet. So they'll be the ones who will be going, what about this and this and this? They've never been put together. And you probably see that in classes, it's like, Jesus, I think I said last time, I'm reading a book on chaos theory and how they got rejected so much.
Which theory?
Chaos theory.
Okay, yeah.
For years, by mathematicians, by physicians, physicists, and all that kind of stuff, until there was enough of a groundswell and enough knowledge. But I don't know if AI could create that, because it doesn't have that yet. Now it might come, which I think if we embrace it within the classrooms, try and remove the fear for students and teachers, then we're giving people the best opportunity to be able to get more than just the simple prompt to, you know, tell me what 5 plus 5 is. Thanks very much. You know, and you're showing them that they can actually go, teach me how 5 plus 5 works because I learned this way.
Yeah.
And then they can go in that direction.
Yeah, no, the interesting thing about doing maths with AI is that's the one area that you see frequent mistakes, because it's not a deterministic model. Like a deterministic model means that if you put in a certain input, then you can draw a flow diagram and figure out what the output should be. It's a probabilistic or a stochastic model, where that every time you run the prompt, you're going to get a little bit. There's going to be some difference, because there is some probability in there where there is some random choice being made between whether it chooses option A or B somewhere along the decision line. So it's it's very interesting to see to see the mistakes that it makes, for example, and to actually think about, you know, if a student runs a prompt and it sees a mistake, then what should they do? You know, should they accept the mistake? Like, will they even spot the mistake, or will they actually question it? You know, so that's where, you know, critical thinking is really important. Everything that you get as a student from a chatbot, you should be critically analyze every sentence, every word, every result, because like I think Angela mentioned every along, there will be mistakes, will be hallucinations, and I think that's where your job as a student should be, is to make sure that your output is true and verifiable, and can actually point to certain references, and therefore it is your own work.
Absolutely. Well, we kind of have to bring the podcast to a close, unfortunately, and I think maybe we'll get you guys on again, because there's a lot we haven't kind of got into. But I suppose just kind of one final question for everybody, and I know Angela isn't hearing this yet, but you can. Well, I suppose, Angela, I'm going to ask you the final question. Like, so for you, what's the single biggest benefit and or challenge of AI and VR in the classroom?
So if we start with VR, the challenge is the setup. The challenge is actually having someone on hand. So to actually come into the classroom with you, a class beforehand, and actually get the VR headset set up with the app and make sure it's working correctly. So when that class arrives in, you're just straight into the lesson. So in the school, I have developed a team of VR ambassadors. So I've taken younger students and trained them in how to actually go around and make sure that everybody's on the VR in the classroom. Equally, you definitely need some type of ICT support. You need somebody that knows the VR headsets. Like, I'm very lucky in school I am that the person who is actually in the ICT role here is actually interested in VR. Hence the reason why it's been such a smooth transition for us. So that's the biggest obstacle for me when it comes to VR. With AI, introducing AI into schools, it's the fact that the teachers potentially are not, I suppose, are not comfortable with it yet. You know, it's okay for me in the classroom because I have a good sense of it and I come from a technology background, but we're expecting teachers to have that. And we're expecting teachers to understand how to use, and we're expecting teachers to, know when something is used by ChatGPT and so on. So that's the biggest challenge. It's the biggest challenge, like Niall was talking about there, not to go back over all he said, but the biggest challenge with AI in the classroom is just making sure that they don't put in information, like even personal information, stuff like that. Or again, I know from, talking to you in your role, also counselling. They're asking ChatGPT like proper counselling questions. And this is what I hammer home about these kind of things, because this is where the danger steps in. You cannot ask ChatGPT to give you an answer around an actual personal dilemma in your life. Like, Or if you do, please don't believe everything that you see, and like the likes of Snapchat AI, I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but that has now slipped into students' phones as well. And a lot of parents aren't even aware of that. So
Mhm.
outside of the classroom, it's educating the students on Snapchat AI and stuff like that. That's not your personal assistant. That is not a friend, in a very nice possible way. These things, whatever they tell you, it's not true. If you have a problem, come to the people, come to somebody like refer to a parent or come to us as such. Do not take guidance from AI chatbots. That's the challenge.
That's
Yeah.
definitely a challenge.
Oh, stop. Yeah.
That's
And it's creeping in more and more.
oh, I'm seeing it all the time,
Mm,
absolutely all the
mm,
time. And do you know
mm,
what clients that I've worked with will say in terms of the positives of it? They said it's helped me kind of think through things,
mm,
or bounce ideas off something else, just to
mm,
process something in the moment.
mm,
Something that maybe I don't feel I need to go for therapy, but
mm,
I'm struggling with an issue. But then when they're sitting down opposite somebody in that role, they're like, oh, this is totally different.
mm,
It's
mm.
totally different.
Yeah,
So it is, and I think again it comes back to the digital literacy stuff. We
absolutely.
gotta start talking about it. We gotta start talking about it very young, because like kids are using it at 4, 5, 6 years of age. They just don't necessarily know that they're using it that young. So
Mm,
we have
mm,
to start to bring that into the discussion within
mm,
schools. And look, there's going to be fears there. There's nothing we can do about that. And there's going to be right fears. Like it's
mm,
right that there
mm,
should be questions asked and clarification sought and stuff like that, because that's part of a process when you're bringing something brand new
mm,
in.
mm.
So I think it's really important that we start to have those conversations very early on. Angela, I'll come back to you in a second for final wrap up thoughts and where
No
people
problem.
can find you. Tana, for you, what do you think are the kind of biggest challenges and benefits of AI and VR in the classroom?
Well, I think what Angela said and what you said, when I heard that people were actually using Chat GPT and everything for personal questions, and I was like, that's not true. And there was a South Park episode where he was talking to his, like, I was like, wait a minute, is this really true? Is this really happening? And I was talking to my kids about it, and they were like, yeah, mother, like, people are actually, it's like that movie with Joaquin Phoenix, I think it was called Her. And I was like, holy, wow. And you think about it, a lot of these children, I mean, people post their children and where they log and, have their children from birth and dictating and everything. Their children, their whole lives are on a phone from day one, and it's out there. And I'm like, well, how would these children not know? And it's like the genie's already out of the bottle. How do we gave these children this technology at such an early age, and they have it in their schools. And here in Texas, they've taken the phones away from children in the schools. Now they can't have them, and kids are going crazy, parents are going crazy, everybody's going crazy because they no longer can have phones in the schools. So I don't know, anyway, that's crazy. But it's hard to process not having your phones and everything, but it is something that we need to, the laws and everything, we need to, I think, catch up with that technology, because it is already out. And there is a lot of good, but there is some bad, and we need to educate these children on how to use it, because it is a scary. People have access to our children in awful ways, and especially our children's photos, our children's personal information. So much is out there, and you have to protect your children. So I think with everything, a lot of power becomes a lot of responsibility. So as I think with anything, when you allow your child to have that technology and access to it, is everybody's own um, timeline, or whenever you issue that to them. But I think you just need to really educate your child and as far as within the school, I think it's a great tool, and I hope that teachers don't feel that we're trying to replace them, because you can never replace a teacher. You'll never be able to do that. And I think just like with anything else in any industry, the art industry and the art world, in the music and the film industry, education industry, it is just a tool, and we need to use it as that. And you're never going to fundamentally you won't ever be able to replace the human aspect of what we do. And we just need to learn how to use it as such.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, you're spot on. Thank you. And Jayshawn, for you, where do you see the benefits and challenges within using these technologies in the classroom?
The benefits, I mean, from the educator standpoint, being able to lighten the load as far as reviewing data from students is huge. From the student side, I think it's huge. But I think where this could be a selfless plug, I think where people need to look at is at FPK University. What we've built here with our AI study coach, it's kind of addressed some of these concerns. So our AI study coach, it uses Anthropic, Gemini, OpenAI, 4 models from 11 labs. In Anthropic, it uses 2 models. In Gemini, it uses 3 models, and it has 2 models of ChatGPT. So it has a total of 12 different AI models that runs the AI. It's smart AI is what I'm calling it. It won't give you answers to questions. It's programmed to where it never gives you answers. If you ask it a direct question, what's 2 plus 2? It's going to guide you to the answer. We need to find more AIs like this, and this is what we need to put in front of our students. Even addressing the asking personal questions. The way we've built ours, you ask it something that has to do with therapy or something, it's not going to give you an answer. It's going to say, this is a question that's best suited for such and such. Or it will direct you to a source, a legitimate source, that's not going to give you some false information. But it will always prompt you, and it'll never give you the answers. It's always going to make you dig deeper. And I think when some of these bigger AI models, like, I don't know why ChatGPT hasn't done it yet. I know they're offering their services free to schools, but they haven't put out a system that is gated and doesn't give answers that students can freely use. So when you look at something like our AI study coach, that's the type of AI that everybody should be using, whether in school or out of school with your children. Now, if you're an adult, use what you want. But if you have children, they should be using our AI platform with the safeguards that it has in there. And I think that would be the best advice I can give for anybody when it comes to AI. Sign up with FPK University and use our AI study coach.
Well played, sir. I take my hat off to you. Angela, final words to you. Thank you so much to yourself and Niall for joining us. Where can people find out more about your mission?
Okay, so mycareerverse.ie is our platform. We're currently in the beta version of it. We'll be finalizing over the next couple of weeks. It is live. People can play around with it and have a look at it. We put some information up on it, but it's not the full process of integrating the actual assessment isn't there yet. But mycareerverse.ie, we also, just to say as well, we teach teachers how to use AI in education. We're rolling out a program nationwide as well around that. So if a teacher's interested or a school leader, we're also in that space as well. And we're currently teaching students and teachers and leaders how to use AI in education properly using the UNESCO framework, the European UNESCO framework, you know.
That is fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, Angela, Niall, thank you so much for joining us. Tana, Jayshawn, as always, you guys bring the fire. Until next time, Angela, we'll definitely get you back on. Everybody, look after yourselves, and thank you for joining us on the Future Proof Knowledge podcast. And let's get a little outro. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Mind unlocked. With every episode we cast real talk, real tools, wisdom on the fly. Tune in, geek out, reach for the sky.